is a writer, a creator, and an amazing person. She carries her heart on her sleeve all the time. Trust me, the time I've known her, she just really does. And as you all know, no one knows what their tool is walking into this interview. Her tool is truth because her honesty, every action she takes is just so honest. She thinks about everyone and everything. She thinks about every single just possibility out there, and she always speaks the truth, no matter who will agree or disagree. And she takes this into her career, friendships, just everything that is around her. Welcome to the forecast, Chrissy. Thank you for being here, honey.
Oh my God. I feel beyond honored to be here. And like, wow, that intro also, like, my eyes are tearing up because I feel so seen by that intro. And, truth matters so much to me. And it's so hard, I think, actually, to convey that at times because you
Mhm.
always kind of have to take people at their word, right? And people lie. So, how do you really know when someone is really truthful? I think, obviously you have to kind of follow their track record, and that
Yes.
is built with trust. But yeah, the truth is extremely important to me.
That's amazing. And I love that you bring up all these tools as you explain about truth because trust is a big one. And
Yeah.
I think it starts with like self-trust, like how do I trust myself in every
Mhm.
action and everything I want to do. So how do you think you connect it to trust? Or because you say it kind of builds up, kind of like getting to know the person.
Yeah.
What do you think you do to connect to that individually, as in other people, yourself? What would
Right.
that process be?
Yeah, like building trust with myself. I don't know. I think it's partially connected to like just my own intuitive nature and listening to the messages that I get. And I think also being able to reflect on the
Mm,
trajectory of my life. And I've kind of written about this before in my newsletter that I do called Forward Joy, because I think that also helps me trust in also like the universe and to know that like
mm,
my path is my path because I can I keep track of all these little moments that happen in my life and where things have sort of like worked out in my favor, or I had this inkling that like I should go for this or I shouldn't go for this. And that helps me to trust myself. Of course, yes, like everyone else, I still struggle with self-doubt. Like that's always going to be there, but you can't let that voice win.
okay, yeah. Which, by the way, your newsletter is amazing. If no one has that newsletter, she's just so deep into what's going on in her life and shares so many insights, which is the truth. Your
Mhm.
newsletter just shows the truth.
Yep.
Very open, and the way you use this feeling, as in that voice that comes in and kind of guides you. Do you think it was built since you're really young, or it was built also with the evolution of your life, of the lessons? Because I mean, we all have those lessons, those experiences. We
Yeah.
keep connecting and expanding. So is it like an expansion, like it keeps growing, and that's why there's still self-doubt?
I I don't know. I would like to believe that this is an innate nature within me. Um,
Mhm.
Also to bring in astrology because I love it. I mean, I'm a
Yes.
Pisces. I'm one of the most intuitive signs. Um,
Mm.
and and I really do believe that I not only in truth, but that I have all the tools to sort of navigate and get myself to wherever I'm meant to go. And I think being intuitive is it can be tricky at times. I mean, obviously, it's a relation you have with yourself, but so often you also want to express those intuitive thoughts to other people who like may not believe you, and also
Yeah.
you then also doubt yourself because of that. And I remember one of my childhood friends once said to me, she was like, I always know, she was like, I know you're intuitive. And so anytime you say you have a feeling about something, like I know to trust you. And like that is such a beautiful and like powerful thing to say to someone like me,
Yeah.
because I do think it's hard to find people that will always trust you. I mean, you can't trust everybody, but
Hmm. No, yeah. So it's also about being trusted.
yeah,
It's like that connection of I trust you and you trust me. So it's like a built connection and that innate feeling of your intuition.
yeah,
I think you just never let it go. You just knew and you kept going. And even if one day you were wrong because it was more of an emotion than
right.
the intuition, you didn't let go. So that's amazing. Do you think you tend to be very strong-willed? Because I think that's what it would be.
Yeah,
In your career, how have you used this intuition? Because many listening, when it comes to their intuition, I think that's what they don't trust.
right.
And that's what we're supposed to be listening to.
I think it's always easiest for me to trust when it comes to my career. I mean, I can from the very early days, like I knew I was meant to work in fashion. Like there was nothing anybody could like ever tell me
Mhm.
that to deter me, because I just like knew in my bones that that was what I was meant to do, even though I had no rule book or no direction of like how to get there. Like my parents barely graduated from high school. Like there was nothing really that they were going to be able to instruct me on how to get there. Although my dad kind of did play a role at a later date into how I got my first internship, but yeah, I just knew that it was the path that I was meant for. And what's very interesting, and this is why I always also preach when it comes to like manifestation,
Mhm.
I think it's important to have, you know, a specific goal in mind, but you can't get so caught up in the details of like how and when you're going to get there.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, when I thought about working in fashion, I wanted to be a print magazine editor. I always said, like, I wanted to be the person who picked the clothes that went in the magazine. And I actually ended up never working really on the print side. I only found myself in digital. And when I got my first digital job, I was kind of like, okay, well, I'll do this until like I can get a print job, because that's really where I thought I wanted to be. I was like, this is fine for now. But then it actually kind of clicked later on that like, actually, I don't mind being in digital. Like I thought I would miss touching the
Mhm.
clothes and all of that stuff. And then as like the internet changed and like the importance of the digital space,
Mhm.
I just was so thankful that I actually ended up on that side, because I had so much creative freedom in my job, especially when I was an editor at Harper's Bazaar, where I spent almost 9 years of my career. And it was kind of like the wild, wild west when I got there. Like we were able to do whatever we wanted. And my job ended up being so much more than like just the girl who picks the clothes that go in the magazine, you know, like I got to
Yeah.
style, I got to interview celebrities, I got to travel all over the world, I got to go on TV. I could have never in a million years like actually dreamed up that my career would look like that.
So the trust is really it's around the I know what I can do, I know what I want, but I don't know how it's going to look. So you
Right.
don't truly like get stuck or get it's like that letting go of the process and living it. So it's the tool of experience, the tool of whatever's in the now, which before we were recording, we were talking about being in the now and
Yeah.
how powerful it is. but yet committing to something. Yes, I can be in and out, but I'm still committed. I still know where I am or want to be or strive for. And how did that living in the now kind of guide you towards who you are now? Because you've also made very difficult decisions along the way. How do you
Mhm.
take the toll of difficulty in this truth? How is it easy to be so honest with yourself? Because I think that's one of the toughest things for people to just be honest with themselves and be like, hey, like, I don't like this anymore. I want to
Yeah.
change this. Like, what do you think is the way to go about that?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it, then became a huge surprise to myself when I started feeling unhappy at my job because this was my
Mm,
dream job. This was beyond my wildest dreams job, actually.
yes.
And, but there was a lot of different factors in play. And I think beyond this dream of working in fashion, I think from a very young age, I had this feeling of responsibility and that I was meant to do really great things with my life. Shout out to my Capricorn moon. Um,
Yes.
and I didn't exactly know what it was. I just knew that like I'm meant to do great things. And so I was, of course, like battling with this feeling of like, oh, I love this job, but it's not making me happy. And that is such a complicated feeling in and of itself because I have this job that so many other girls would die to have. And you're
Mhm.
always told like you're so lucky to be here and lucky to have this job. So I'm like, why do I now not like it? And it was just because deep down I knew like, yes, this was an incredible chapter of my life, but like now you're actually kind of being held back and
Mhm.
you can still do what you're doing right now, but in different ways and in bigger ways. And it's actually time for you to take the biggest leap of all and like go out on your own. And um, it, even coming to that decision and and the decision to of when I was going to leave that job was incredibly challenging to make because I'm
Mhm.
someone who gets very caught up in like doing things the right way. When is the right time? How do I
Mhm.
do this? If I spent like a year being like, okay, in 3 months I'm going to leave. Okay, actually by summer I'm going to leave. Actually before September Fashion Week starts, I'm going to leave. Okay, by the end of the year I have to leave. I was like, at the end of 2019, I had to
Mhm.
leave. But I still didn't. Well, I put in my resignation, but I didn't end up leaving till the top of 2020. And um, again, it's like I know that like I'm having such an internal experience of like this is not right. I need to move on. There's other things out there for me that it was like I was screaming at myself inside. So
Yeah.
again, it like sort of comes back to like I trust because I had to trust that like if this was actually the right place for me, I wouldn't be feeling this way. And I'm having
Mhm.
all of these feelings because I've actually like outgrown the person that I am right now in this job. And
Definitely.
and again, it's like then I made this very difficult leap, but I felt excited. Like and it felt actually like such a blessing to have that outlook because I went out on my own. Like I had money saved up, but there was no real
Mhm.
safety net except for like, okay, I have an Instagram following and hopefully I'm going to
Mhm.
make money off of that. But I just remember feeling like, well, there's nowhere but up for me to go from here. Like
Why?
I'm on the bottom level and I'm not going anywhere but up.
Yeah, I love that perspective. How did you even have an idea what exactly you wanted to do? Or it was more like let's go and explore.
I it's actually wild like when I reflect on those months because also for those listening, like I left my job 6 weeks before we went into lockdown. So even if I had an idea, it probably was not going to pan out for me very well because nothing was happening. Even as I said, like I had this Instagram following, so I was like, great, I'll, I'll hopefully get jobs with brands, but all the brands like pulled the brakes on all their like influencer marketing at the very beginning. I think maybe like it took a couple weeks, April, May, more May, like things started to pick up again. But um, I didn't know really what I was going to do because I also knew that okay, this Instagram stuff, like yes, it's great, but that's not going to be my entire like next phase of my life.
Yeah.
Um, and I had some like management companies pursuing me, and the one that I'm currently signed to, I had like two meetings with them in May, and I'll never forget because they were also very much pushing me to define, well, what exactly is it do you want to do next? I was like, I don't
Yeah.
I don't really know. And in the second meeting, I said to them, I don't know, but I said, I feel like whatever I'm going to do doesn't exist yet. I said to them
Ooh,
verbatim.
so powerful.
I was like, I
Okay.
just know that what I want to do, it doesn't exist yet. And 5 days later, I posted a video on my Instagram that went viral. That was in response to the murder of George Floyd. And I made this video speaking out about why I thought it was really important for people to speak up about racism. Within 24 hours, it had 1 million views. It now stands at like 5.3 million. It was insane. Like
Yeah.
Ariana Grande shared it, like all of these celebrities.
It
I
was.
could never have planned for this. And that's another thing I think that's, we can make all these plans, but you can't plan for everything. And sometimes you have to just meet a moment
Mhm.
where you're at.
Yeah.
And that video actually really changed my life completely because like 3 days later, I ended up starting a diversity inclusion consulting company with another former editor friend of mine. Again, we created something that like didn't really exist,
Mhm.
um, where we started working with brands and influencers, and we created these like anti-racism workshops where we worked with them to really break down like how racism functions in the fashion and beauty space, um, and yeah, and then I also went on to create my newsletter. Another thing that I sort of felt like didn't really exist. Like, yes, I
Yeah.
think during 2020, a lot of newsletters started popping up. And actually, during lockdown, I started brainstorming my newsletter, but it was actually going to be a podcast. But then I was like, podcasts are so technical. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I actually spent some time like re-listening to my birth chart readings and some old tarot readings I had because I record every single reading I ever get. And I tried to really listen for the meaning and purpose of my life. And I also thought about what do I really love to do and like what would I want to do with my life even if I wasn't getting paid? Like what would actually make me happy or what does make
Mhm.
me happy? And I thought about how I love having deep conversations with people. Like that is something that I always find myself doing and feel really fulfilled by, whether it's with friends or someone I just met through a mutual friend and we're talking about,
Yeah.
our dating lives or career or just I don't know.
Even astrology, like reading each other. Let me get to
Yes.
know you and you know me and see different perspectives and share.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so that's where the idea for this podcast turned newsletter came in. And then yeah, by the end of 2020, I really started like fleshing it out as a newsletter, where I would write about my like personal life experiences, just the many experiences of being a human, living at home with my parents, working in a toxic work environment, interviewing friends who have gone through addiction, interviewing my astrologers, tarot readers. I've interviewed you, like
Yeah.
all these different people I think who have helped me like find myself or just stories that I think are really powerful and deserve to be told and to be heard by other people because that was also a big part of what I did while I was at Bazaar.
Okay. So this tool of truth, you use it with the open heart of receiving and giving. So you share, and sharing is such a great tool to see what other people don't see, don't want to talk about, feel
Exactly.
it's taboo when it's really not, because everyone does something. So it's like you're opening up this avenue, and you mentioned purpose, which is amazing because that is part of your purpose, just speaking the truth.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
it's, your throat chakra is like, let's say whatever we have to say. And
Yeah.
the fact that you left without a plan just shows how we have to make space for things. A lot of people wait, and
It
it's
is
like,
the truth.
you need to make space. You need to truly have that moment of silence to even listen to yourself. Within 5 days, you post a video, which that's why I mentioned you wear your heart on your sleeve. You're not over here like, well, are they going to agree or disagree? It's like, no, this is the truth.
Right.
So listen. And wearing your heart on your sleeve is such a great tool of radiating this light that you have, that everyone has, this fraction of light of God, of this is my spirit and this is how I'm gonna live.
Yeah.
Living that experience of what are we as humans? Who am I as this human? So just this tool of truth with the honesty you carry, and being able to go through life without really planning, just knowing that knowingness of, I know who I am.
Being
So
in
I'm gonna get,
flow.
yes. So how do you think you're meeting those needs? Because one thing is, I want this, I want to touch the clothes and have the physical print, or no, I need to feel fulfilled. And fulfillment to me is, I'm not happy in this stage anymore. I need my rebirth. It's uncomfortable, but I know what I need. What do you
Mm,
think you use through that need? Like, how do you meet your needs? That's such a like powerful way to just live.
I know. And listen, I feel like in my career, I am the most like confident and driven person. Like I often think about who I am in this area of my life and like
Mhm.
wish that I could apply it to all other areas, um, dating namely. But yeah, how do I meet that need? I mean, that's such a great way to ask that question. I'm like, you tell me. Um,
I can tell you in a way of, from what I see, my
yeah.
perspective, I think you just don't like to stop. You like to search. You do research. You're like, well, if
Yes.
you're not gonna give me the answer, who
Yeah.
else? That's why you're into so many things.
Yeah.
Astrology, tarot, me channeling for you. Like, you don't stop.
I
And
know.
that's that, and it's a really good thing. I think that's
Yeah.
something that we all could learn from, as
Yeah.
in, why do I stop and wait? I don't think you wait. You're not
Mhm.
a, oh, let me sit down and wait. Even when it comes to dating, honey, I don't think you wait. I think it's a different pace, but I don't think there's
Right.
waiting.
Yeah.
And the waiting is the lack of meeting your needs, is that dependency of, what am I supposed to do versus, oh, I'm very independent.
Yeah, for sure. And yes, and I am very independent. And again, I'm like connecting to trust. It's like I do trust that I can make shit happen for myself
Yeah.
and that I don't actually need other people
Oh,
to get things done.
I love that. Do you think that has to do with the self-awareness you carry in you? Because you're very self-aware, and that inner dialogue of, even if I don't like something, I
Yeah,
know it and I don't avoid it.
right.
So you're not like waiting for someone to be like, no, you're this or you're that. Like, you don't receive what you're supposed to be or not be. It's more like, oh, that resonates.
Well, I also don't like people to tell me who I am, like
Oh, same.
in a certain sense, you know.
Yeah.
Unless like literally unless they are a healer like do not and, and I also feel like this is such a like plight of the Pisces because it's like we actually deeply want to be known but we also don't want people
Mm,
to like think that they know us or like to put us in a box, because I think that's also how a lot of people operate, is they put people into boxes. Oh, you're messy, you're organized, you're this, you're
Yeah.
successful, you're slow, you're fast, XYZ.
Yeah.
But
Which, yeah.
I also like what you said about, making the space in your life, because I also think a lot of people forget that sometimes when you want to go after something new, that you often have to let go of something. And
Mhm.
I think, yes, I felt like I was in a very like privileged situation to a certain extent when I left my job, because listen, if things were to have really hit the fan, like I know I have parents who are willing to provide a safety net for me. And luckily I didn't have to use that, except that I did move home to my parents' house during the pandemic because my lease ended. But yeah, I always think about how people say they wish that they could like quit their job and like travel the world. And it's like, well, you can do that, but actually it really requires you to quit your job.
And
Like,
do the work because
yeah,
I'm guessing it wasn't easy. Maybe it was possible, but you had to do some sort of work, some sort of inner dialogue. Maybe there were days where you were anxious or,
yeah,
but
of course.
so it's also knowing that there is a process that might be uncomfortable. And
Hmm.
something you said are very key, the boxes, the
Yeah,
over identifying. I think that's what stops people from letting go because they over identify with something and they want to keep it, they want to grab it, and it's like this is what I am and this is what I have to keep being. So letting go and making space has to do with don't over identify. And you said it earlier, you understood you had a purpose and you had to do something different. And I think everyone is unique enough to believe that, to say, well, I can bring a different perspective. So this expansion, this rebirth, because we live in an evolution,
hmm,
is not really about how long can I keep something, but rather how long does it take me to understand myself within that scenario.
yeah, I like that.
So how do you think you connect right now to the forecast? And the forecast is like your scenario right now, who you are, your purpose. How are you sharing this voice? Because I know you're very spiritual. Everyone is spiritual. That's the whole concept of this. But I know you really like to speak about it. What do you
Yeah.
think your part of truth is within that spirituality? How are you sharing that? How what can you share with us about that?
I think, listen, I found this spiritual path that I've been on during my Saturn return.
Okay.
Very after having a very, very, very low point in my life due to like a situationship I was involved in. And through the readings that I have done and the perspective that I have gained from it has also given me so much confidence in like who
Mhm.
I am, and trust in the process and in the journey of life, and that we're all here to learn the specific lessons that we are here to learn.
Yeah.
My journey is completely different from yours, different from my parents, different from my best friend. And so I find it really important to share, because especially as someone who struggles, I struggle with anxiety. I think, listen, there is so much reading about how finding a spiritual practice, finding something bigger than yourself,
Mhm.
really helps. It really truly does. um and that's why I like to share sort of like my practices and things I that have just helped to like nourish me and help me be the person that I am and get up every day and move through the world the way that I do, because I don't think that I would be like this if it weren't for all the spiritual work that I've done, as well as like being in therapy.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of like having a different type of mirror, like someone who can mirror back whatever you don't see in yourself,
Yeah.
like show you. And I like that you mentioned something bigger than you, because even in nature, when you stand next to mountains, I was next to a mountain yesterday,
Yeah.
and in front of the ocean, I was like, I'm so tiny and this feels so good.
So
Being tiny
tiny.
feels really nice. It lacks a lot of responsibility. So I just know just being me is enough. How
Exactly.
do you think you connect to enoughness? Like, oh, this is enough for the now.
Um, I I think it's something that I'm getting better at connecting to. I
Okay.
think, and I feel like it probably has to do with the amount of time that I have spent working in the fashion industry and now kind of slowly like taking steps away from being so entrenched in it, because I don't know, I think I exist in a culture, especially like, when you live in New York City, where nothing is enough for anybody. Like everyone is on a hustle 24/7. You need more money so you can be here, there, blah, blah, clothes, shoes, bags, just like at all the hottest restaurants, the clubs, etc. It's just, there is just like this constant grind that is actually like quite exhausting. And I don't know, I think also a big part of it was like going through the pandemic and sort of knowing that like my health is most important, my parents' health is most important, you know, being rooted in purpose is really
Mhm.
important to me. All the other stuff is just kind of like, fun extras, but again, it's like I believe that I have all the tools that I need to do
Mhm.
whatever it is that I need to do. Like I don't need anything beyond myself. But
Yeah,
it takes time for people. It takes time to get there.
definitely. I think it's the tool of grounded, being very
Mm,
grounded, being very
yeah.
self-aware. Because the way you explain it is more like now you're able to separate yourself from others. I think that's tough sometimes. When you want
Yeah.
to belong, it's like that belongingness. Do you think you've ever like, because I think we've all been there, like, oh, I want to belong to this or that. How do
Right.
you disconnect it from that and connect it
Well,
back to you?
I think it's a lot of ego work, because I think also being in
Mhm.
fashion is, and like being in it at the level that I was, where I'm
Mhm.
working for one of the top luxury fashion brands in
Mhm.
the world. And you are who you work for, you are the brand that
Yeah.
you work for. And that is meant to give you purpose, that is meant to give you status.
Ooh, okay.
And there are so many people, and this is also like something that I've really been working through lately, is like there are so many people who were coming into my orbit, whether for work or friendship purposes, etc., who were coming to me because, yes, I'm sure that they liked who I was, but
Mhm.
also the fact that I was aligned with this magazine and that maybe I could give them something
Yeah.
also kind of anchored them to me.
Okay.
And
So,
so, before I even left my job, I had to really untether my identity to this magazine. And I remember actually at points when I already like mentally knew that I wanted to leave, that I started feeling like quite resentful that like when I would go to an event, people would be like, "Oh, this is Chrissy from Bazaar." I'm like, "Why can't I just be Chrissy? Like, why does my name
mhm.
have to be attached to this place that I work? Because I'm more than the place that I work." And
Yeah.
that's another thing, is like so many people feel like they get their value from the place that they work, or because they've got the latest Prada bag, and that
Mhm.
like all of that just is constant in the industry. And And I don't know. I'm like, I felt this way even before I left, but I'm like, I don't want someone to just see me as valuable because they think I can afford this designer outfit or because I work at this magazine. I want someone to see that I'm valuable, because of just who I am as a person, because we are all inherently valuable as the human
Yes.
beings that we are. Um, and so, yeah, leaving that job, I really had to untether my identity from it because I knew as soon as I walk out that door and I don't have that business card and I don't have that email address and I don't have that email signature, there's a lot of people who are going to be like, well, you actually can't do anything for me. Like,
Yeah.
sure, Chrissy's nice, but like, she's not going to be able to write about our brand, or she's not going to be able to do this or come to this event for us.
Mm.
So on to the next. Like, who's her replacement? And I don't matter anymore.
And I want to say something about the whole replacement and connection to an unequal exchange, which is
Mm,
truly what it is.
mm,
Because everything is divine timing. And the
yeah,
way that the moment you had your rebirth and left, someone new who needed that lesson came in.
right,
And that's how divine timing works. It's like, it's not that it's good or bad, it's that everyone's here to learn something. So
right,
that industry is learning something very powerful, which is what is true exchange.
yeah,
The inner knowing it's like when if you ask for something, don't ask for money, ask for wisdom.
mm,
Wisdom is money
right,
energetically. So
yeah,
if you're going to ask for something, don't ask for money. Say, I co create wisdom. And what happens? You start connecting to a higher vibration. So it's that equal exchange of the inner knowing, the inner self. And it feels like your spirit kind of just was tired of there's nothing internal, everything is external. So how can
yeah,
I yeah, it's like, how do I express myself? Who actually wants to know me? So it was like this very explosive moment that gave you this huge opportunity. And also, I want you to see the purpose. It gave someone else a huge opportunity
right.
of
Although
now
they
learning
never
that
actually
lesson.
replaced me because they would have needed like 5 humans to replace me.
There you go. So those 5, 10 maybe, because I know you and I know what you mean with they needed like 5.
Yeah,
It's
I was just
a-
doing a lot of jobs.
at the same time. And how do you think that's connected to potential, the work hard instead of work smart? Like, and not even smart, just work at a pace that is not that hard work that like I need it. And by the way, I say this and I work a lot, but because I'm
Right.
so passionate, because I
Yeah.
love what I do. And if
Yeah.
someone calls me last minute and it's like a 911 call, I'm gonna pick up. Like I can't say no. It's like my
Of course.
spirit is like yelling. So what's the difference between a work hard and you work really hard right now?
Right. I always say like yes, like I work hard, but I don't work a lot. To me, those
Oh,
are two different things.
okay.
I'm like, I work hard because I work hard for myself, but I don't need to work like a lot. Like
I
I'm not
love
working like every single day, morning till night.
Okay. And so the hard work is the giving, the how much energy you give, how much
Yeah.
amount of focus. Oh, I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I also work really hard, but not,
Yeah.
yeah. No, the other day I even voice noted you. I was like, I'm
I
taking a
know.
nap. Don't
I know.
worry.
Because I was like, I'm worried about you. I just know,
Yeah.
like, you get depleted when you're constantly giving energy to other people. So I'm
Yeah.
always worried about my healers.
Thank you, honey. Yeah. No, definitely. How do you think you come back to you because you're very giving.
Mm,
Everything you do, the newsletter, you're giving so much of you. How do
yeah.
you think you give back to you? Or like balance that scale of now I need silence.
By resting. Rest is so important to me. And that's another thing is like I know that I'm not meant to I know I'm not meant to work hard in a way that like my parents had to work. Like I'm
Okay.
just I know that part of my purpose is actually to enjoy my life. I'm a Taurus rising. Um, you know, I truly believe that. And so rest is rest is really important to me. Also because I just like, again, I know myself,
Mm,
and I'm someone who I can only go so far on empty. Like some people can just like keep going and going and going and going. And I will not. If I do, I will make your life a living hell because it's just it's not going to be good for anybody involved. So I really know when it's like, okay, I need like a 24-hour timeout.
yeah. Again, the truth. You tell yourself the truth. You're not like, no, I'm supposed to keep going. Let's do this.
No, yeah, I do not
Yeah.
believe in that at all. I don't believe in like sacrificing
Hmm.
like my own, like abandoning myself just to please others. I do not believe in that because I can't show up my best in that way.
Yeah, definitely. Because, I mean, going back to truth, you're going to be dishonest. You're going to be playing a
Right.
role that you don't want to play in that day, in that moment, pretending. There's no pretending. I think pretending is when you stop feeling and you push yourself towards a moment that is unnecessary and it's not even divine because your feeling is that intuition, that
Yeah.
guidance towards what you should be doing or shouldn't.
Yeah.
Which I don't love those words, but you know what I
I know.
mean. The
Yeah, I
flowing
know.
and following.
I just feel like my energy is also like it's very pure. And like when
Mhm.
I'm just in a bad place, it's like everybody's going to know it.
Yeah, it's gonna feel, everyone's gonna feel, and you're also powerful. Your energy is powerful, so everyone is going to
Agree.
feel at the end of the
I
day.
agree.
Yeah. So when it comes to, because you mentioned something, and I really want to get into this. You said I
Yeah.
shouldn't work as hard as my parents did. I love
Mm.
that because it's like embracing the lineage and saying, oh, they worked this hard so that I could have
So that
it
I didn't
easy.
have to. So that I didn't have to.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like this connection to the tool worthiness.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of clients sometimes, which is part of their healing moment, that
Yeah.
they don't recognize this point. They kind of want to think about it in a different perspective, like, oh, I need to, I don't come from worthiness because they worked too hard. And
Hmm.
since it wasn't easy for them, then it's not easy for me. And it's
Right.
like, wait, no, you come from worthiness because you have badass parents, first of all.
Right.
You have parents who gave you everything, so that's how worthy you were. It's like
Yeah.
that image when one dad doesn't have a shoe, the other mom doesn't have the shoe, and the kid has each shoe. It's
Yeah.
like that's how worthy you are. People gave up their, like, I don't know, rest for you. That's a
Yeah.
lot of worthiness. So I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah. And I think in many ways, it's, I know this like kind of sounds like pie in the sky, but I feel like being able to rest is in a way for me to honor what they have done for me because they weren't able to ever do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done what they they wanted me to do in that like I was able to get a proper education that they were not able to get. And I have a career. They have trade jobs. And so I feel like, yeah, I've been able to walk this path that they really carved out for me.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to rest means that I'm able to honor myself and honor them in a way that they did not have the luxury
Yeah,
to do.
that's
And like
amazing.
I've, I mean, I lived through it. Like I watched my parents work so damn hard and at times like abandon themselves, which is why I don't want to abandon myself.
Yeah, it's like you, it symbolizes you doing the healing for the family. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense? Like
Yes.
you go the opposite way, the healthy way, and you, but you're very self-aware of why you get to do it. So it's very
Yeah.
humble.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
amazing.
And I think, and I also think that that is really what my parents also wanted for me. Like, they
Yeah.
wanted me to have an education. They want me to be financially stable, and I am. So I'm
Mhm.
kind of like, this is like, the deal is done. Like, handshake. You guys did the
Amazing.
work, and I took it as far as it needed to go. And now, luckily, like, we can all sort of like slow down and enjoy our lives, because now, yes, it's really amazing to see my parents now in this stage of their lives where they don't have to bust their asses in the way that they used to have to.
Yeah. And just growing up seeing that, growing up having that image, I think is, I don't know, many people have the perspective of trauma. I have the perspective of understanding where we come from, which gives us tools and gives us a lesson that is very necessary to connect to purpose.
Hmm.
Because we see purpose. We see they have a purpose and the purpose is us. And
Yeah.
even if there wasn't really a parent around for some, or there wasn't really a purpose in their actions when they spoke, if you truly pay attention to their actions, they were doing it for a reason.
Yeah.
And they don't have to say it. They don't have to express, oh, I'm doing this so you go to school, or I'm doing this
Right.
so you are comfortable, or it's not even that obvious. It's just
Right.
something that is, you heal and you connect to yourself. You're like, oh, I get it. I see
Yeah.
it. It
Yeah.
wasn't about the hugs, or me personally, my mom wasn't a hugger and she was a single mom for a
I
while, and
mean,
it was like,
same.
it
Same.
was like,
Immigrant,
but
like, is any immigrant parent a hugger? Like, I feel like that.
exactly. Exactly. I don't think so.
I just don't think that those two go hand in hand.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, she had to bust her ass off too and be like, "Let's do this. Oh,
Yeah.
wake up. There's food. Let's keep
Exactly.
going."
Oh,
And it's not.
there is so much work in that, and
Mhm.
learning how to see, the sacrifices that were made for you, and even though it created this chasm in your own self-worth, probably around, like, yeah, worthiness and priority. Like, I definitely had that sort of like
Mhm.
prioritization wound, because I wasn't the priority, because my parents' jobs were their priority. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, and growing up and being able to reconcile with that is really challenging. But it's just, I don't know, it's part of it's part of the lessons that we're meant to learn in this lifetime, right?
Yeah, I think it's unconditional love. We're here
Yeah.
to overall learn unconditional love and coexist. So
Mm,
if they're doing that for us,
right.
that's all they can give, then we can
Yeah.
be unconditional because we chose them.
Yeah.
Instead of
Acts of
conditioning to,
service.
yeah, instead of saying conditioning to a parent should be this or a friend
Right.
should be this, it's more like,
Yes.
well, are we compatible or not? Are we more when it comes to parents, even if you're not
Yeah.
compatible,
Yeah.
there's a reason why the love is so extreme. It's like,
Yeah.
how can we make this work? Why? What's going on here? So it's unconditional love at the end of the day. All the tools add up to unconditional love.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. What do you think you condition? Now I'm curious. Do you think you condition anything?
I
No,
don't
huh?
know. What do you mean by that? Can you give me an
Like,
example?
for example, conditioned love can be
Oh,
the over identifying. I over identify with this, so I condition myself to only love myself this way.
right.
I don't think you do. I just,
I mean, I think there's a little, like, perfectionism there, and feeling like you got to show up in this perfect little way. I think I've felt that about, for myself, to be loved. But then I think also, when I look at potential partners, I'm also expecting them to show up in a perfect way.
yeah. Oh, I like that example.
Hmm.
I think we all do that at some point, and then
Yeah.
if you fall in love, you're like, "Oh, that didn't really matter."
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I'm waiting
That's
on that. But Um,
Me too.
yeah.
Me too. I'm waiting for that too. I just think because when I think about conditioned love, it's also the fact that we externally have a memory or an expectation of something. Like you
Yep.
said, the whole perfectionism,
Yep.
and it kind of calls in the wait, but it can be different.
Yeah.
It can look different. And
Yeah.
in every weird form, in anything you think of. So unconditional love is just a very powerful tool to just say, hey, whatever you believe in, God, universe, whatever it is, just give me what I need because what I
Yeah.
want might just be filled with lessons.
Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah.
Very,
So
very.
for the last question, I want to ask you,
Yeah.
what is your forecast for the next 6 months? What do you think your new tool might be, or what do you want to share with us?
Um, oh, I think the first thing that came to mind is kind of like letting go. And I feel like
Mm,
I'm kind of trying to put that into practice currently. Um, and I think, again, like trust kind of comes into this as well. But even in figuring out, like, where do I want to be in New York, or do I want to be in London, or what is, you know, feeling like I need to have like the answers and sort of things mapped out,
yeah.
and kind of like trusting that things are just actually going to flow the way that they're supposed to.
I love that. I love that you mentioned letting go because at the end of the day, you're kind of a master at it. So it's more like showing to yourself, like,
Mm,
hey, we've done this before.
right.
This is actually easy for us.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful. It's like self recognition.
Thanks.
Yeah, I love it. Honey, thank you so much for being here today. It was
Oh
so
my
special
God.
to have you.
I loved this conversation.
Mm,
I feel like I don't get to have many conversations like this with other, spiritually inclined people. So, um, it's really great to just kind of like let it all out and talk in the way that like feels, I think, really good to me because sometimes,
yeah,
there's a lot of people who don't believe or people who believe whatever they want. We all believe in
yeah,
whatever we want, but yeah, I don't know. There's just something that feels very good in my soul when I can really own that, yes, like my spiritual beliefs are things that have helped to like fortify who I am, and I
mm,
feel like the proof is also like in the pudding. I'm like, the last couple of years of my life have been so hugely transformative in like
yeah.
such a beautiful way, and so many of the tools that I've used to navigate that are all thanks to spirituality and like tarot and astrology and
Mhm.
um yeah, and those are the things that have just really grounded me.
Thank you, honey. Thank you for sharing. And also, thank you for being you, sharing everything that you do, sharing your stories. I think everyone can resonate to her newsletter. Just the openness. Definitely come back whenever you want to have another deep convo. You know, I enjoy those so much as well. This is always a safe space, and I'm here to show mirrors how everyone translates their spirit in different ways. So, thank you for being an amazing mirror, and thank you everyone for listening. Um, we will be back next week